Modern Horizons 2 is here. As a celebration of Modern Horizons 2's release, I'm going to be doing some modern deck techs here on the channel. The first one, Temur Living End. Living End has always been a thing in Modern, the previous iterations being Jund and Esper. However, with a few new releases in Modern Horizons 2 and a couple innovations of the community, Living End has gone the way of Temur. Why? Let me explain. What is Living End exactly? Well, Living End reads just like Living Death. Each player exiles all creature cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all creatures they control, then puts all cards exiled this way onto the battlefield. To simplify it, each player sacrifices their board and reanimates their whole graveyard. However, because Living End doesn't have a mana cost, and nobody wants to wait 3 turns in Modern, how do we cast it? The answer is simple: Cascade cards. Cascade's a mechanic that first premiered in Alara Reborn. Cascade says that when you cast a card with Cascade, you then flip cards from the top of your library until you find a spell with CMC less than the spell you cast with Cascade, and you can then cast that for free. That works tremendously with Living End, because Living End's mana value is technically 0. The 2 Cascade cards that we're working with in this deck are the new to modern Shardless Agent and Violent Outburst. Violent Outburst is very notable because it's an instant, so you can cast Living End on your opponent's end step, which interacts very well with another card I'll get to in just a minute. We're running 20 cards that cycle for either 1 mana or none mana. All the cycling cards can cycle for 1 blue mana. We also have a one of Waker of Waves, which you can pay 2 and discard to get a sleight of hand that puts the other card in your graveyard. As far as interaction goes, the mana cost requirement in this deck makes it hard for this deck to run cheap interaction. However, we found a couple ways to get around this. The first interaction spell we have is Brazen Borrower. Of course, the Petty Theft is the real interaction spell here. However, the Brazen Borrower's mana value is technically 3, so we can cast Petty Theft and not have it interact with Cascade. Our other piece of interaction is a huge one: Force of Negation. This is a huge upgrade we get by going base blue. We can exile any one of our cycling creatures to counter any non-creature spell. There's an even bigger part of this. Remember how I said how Violent Outburst is an instant and it can be cast on your opponent's end step? Well, that means we can use Force of Negation to actually protect our combo instead of disrupting other players' combos like it was intended. As far as the mana base goes, we're pretty much a mono blue deck, splashing red for Violent Outburst and green for Shardless Agent. We're running 4 Spirabluff Canal and 4 Botanical Sanctum as fast lands, and 1 Breeding Pool and 1 Steam Vents for shock lands. We can pretty much run any combination of 7 blue fetch lands. The cheapest would be 4 Flooded Strand and 3 Misty Rainforest. As far as basics goes, we're running 3 basic islands. As far as the sideboard goes, we keep it very simple. 4 Foundation Breaker as a new card from Modern Horizons 2 for any graveyard hate like Rest in Peace, Leyline of the Void, or Relic of Progenitus. Fun fact, Grafdigger's Cage does not work against this deck because technically Living End is reanimating the cards from exile. The more you know. 4 Leyline of Sanctity for any Thoughtseize deck, 4 Leyline of the Void for opposing graveyard decks, and 3 Mystical Dispute for any blue deck or control deck. So that's about it for this list. This list seems actually really fun and really consistent because pretty much every card in this deck is a cycler that can get you to one of your Cascade cards. Any questions or thoughts on this new iteration of Living End? Leave it in the comments below. Twitch, Twitter, and TCG player affiliate are in the description, and as always, have a great day. Yes, I know the monkey isn't broken, but very efficient on rate cards doesn't sound that catchy.